This is the Young Changemakers Podcast, a global changemakers production. I'm Huiti, and together with Megan, we will be your hosts for this season. If you'd like to learn more about the resources and programs that Global Changemakers offers, visit www.global-changemakers.net. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Young Changemakers Podcast, Season 7. My name is Huiti from the Global Changemakers team, and I'll be your host for today's episode. I'm very excited because I'm talking to an amazing changemaker, beautiful human being, and I definitely know that you're also going to enjoy this episode of the podcast. Ida, welcome to the Young Changemakers Podcast.
Thank you, Hoitzi. I'm so happy to be here to chat with you all.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Usually how we love to do it here at the Young Changemakers Podcast is to start by having a bit of a check-in. But before we go for the check-in, people are probably wondering what exactly are we talking about in today's episode. So we will be talking everything girls' education and STEM. And Ida's going to share her story, her journey, and her work as a change maker in this field. But before we start, I'm very passionate about wellness. And so I just want to check in and ask you, Ida, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling today? And maybe share just one word that would probably describe your mood.
Oh, I'd say I'm feeling a solid 10, and my one word would be gratitude.
Gratitude, amazing. I'd love to really just echo that. I'm so thankful that we get this opportunity to share the stories of amazing change makers such as yourself. And I'm really thankful as well that you have the capacity to come and share your story with us in the most authentic way. So a little bit of an icebreaker before we jump into the conversation, a little game that I like to call this so that I just want to find out, and I'm sure our listeners now are curious as well to find out, are you a morning or an evening person?
Oh, this is a tough one. I would have to say it's a little cheating, but I would say both morning and evening. I always feel like there's so much I want to do. And so it's really hard for me to call it a night. And I love to get up early before the sun rises. So I'll have to say both.
Ooh, that is so nice. That is so nice. You got me at sunrise. Sunrises are so beautiful. Sunrises are so beautiful. So you definitely got me there. I really love that you appreciate the beauty of both. All right, summer or winter?
I'm definitely a summer person. It is quite cold here in Toronto for about half of the year, but I love the warmth, the light, and the energy that the summer season brings. And I feel people are just so much more energized and happy and joyous when the sun is out. So definitely summer for me.
Nice. All right. So tea or coffee?
Oh, coffee for sure, especially when it's shared over meaningful conversations. I'm actually drinking some coffee right now.
Nice. Okay. Already, you know one thing that comes to you, and I hope our listeners are able to pick up on it as well. It's just such a warm people's person. Like it's not just the coffee, it's also the company. That's really beautiful, and it comes out as you share the things that you love. All right. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself, Ida. So we can jump right into the conversation. You are a global change maker and you have such a strong passion for girls' education, especially within the STEM field. So maybe you could tell us a little bit, actually, what is STEM? And then can you please share just a little bit of your background with us and your journey as a change maker and what sparked your interest to actually go into this field?
Absolutely. Thanks, Hoichi. So I guess we can first start about what STEM is. And so STEM is an acronym that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. And so because they're all so closely tied together, they're usually grouped together in what we call STEM. So if you hear that being shared wherever you are, that's what it means. And so in terms of my journey in STEM and as a young person, I'm a first generation student. And while I'm the first in my family to pursue a formal education, my passion for learning was deeply rooted in the environment my family nurtured around me. My parents and my grandparents, they always encouraged curiosity and perseverance, and they really taught me to ask questions, read widely, and reflect on the world around me. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. So, going back to my word today of gratitude. And so, growing up, I genuinely loved school. I could never choose a favorite subject. And that's, of course, thanks to my amazing teachers and my classmates. But science always sparked something in me. It left me with more questions than answers. And to me, that was the most exciting part. I was energized by my peers and mentors who also valued curiosity, but at the same time, I became increasingly aware of the barriers around me, the inaccessibility and exclusion that affected girls, first generation students, immigrants, and peers from different cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds. Those moments became my turning point. They were both challenging and illuminating. And so that's really where my advocacy began from recognizing that being passionate about learning shouldn't come with caveats or conditions. And through these conditions and experiences, I began to understand the importance of community. And so that's why at Sciences, our catchphrase is sisterhood in STEM, because we believe in uplifting one another, not just making a space, but holding a space for each other.
That is so beautiful, Ida. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your background, especially as a first generation student. It speaks a lot to you chartering new waters as a change maker above and beyond the amazing work that you do in STEM. And I really love that you make an emphasis of curiosity. One of my mentors always says, you know, you must always ask yourself about the questions that refuse to go away. And they always just make reference to what really sparks our curiosity and our interest. And usually that is where the problems that we would want to solve lie. This is just also for the young change makers that are out there and wondering, what should I do? What should I help in? I have the passion, but I don't know where to start. Usually follow your curiosity and follow where that curiosity will lead you. Thank you so much about sharing about STEM. But then now it makes me wonder, global change makers, like where did you find out about global change makers? And what motivated you to join? Global change makers, and honestly, just share a little bit about how has it impacted your work.
Absolutely. This is a great question, Hoitzi. So I first came across Global Changemakers. I think I was just scrolling on LinkedIn one morning before heading off to class. And shout out to whoever reposted one of the posts that you folks made, because I wouldn't have maybe been introduced to you otherwise. And so joining Global Changemakers really felt like finding my global family. I was drawn to the platform because of the strong community of purpose-driven youth, people who weren't waiting for permission to lead change. And so being part of Global Changemakers gave me confidence to scale my advocacy, offer tangible tools from storytelling to systems thinking that helped me really to sharpen my impact. But more than anything, it reminded me that local actions can have global ripple effects and that we're not alone in the work we do to make the world a better place.
There is always that moment during an episode where I'm like, I'm going to coach you as a young person. And when you speak about how local actions can have and do have a global ripple effect, light bulbs just went ding 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 in my head. And I'm so
Yes.
thankful that you reminded us of that. A lot of times we want to have global impact, forgetting that it actually starts on the ground at grassroots level in the local community. Thank you so much for reminding us. And honestly, one of the pillars of global change makers is that it's community, it's embracing our diversity and just creating a safe space where young change makers can come together and realize that they can develop their skills, share experiences, and whilst also still taking care of themselves and their communities. And so that's one of the big pillars that we have at Global Change Makers, just ensuring that we create a space where people can come together and feel safe as change makers. So actually, that brings me to share a little bit more about Global Change Makers, that we have a lot of different resources that are available at Global Change Makers. Make sure to check out the website, www.global-changemakers.net. Now, growing up, you've probably touched a little bit on it as a first generation student. and just your experience and curiosity around STEM. But for you personally, did you really have the access to STEM opportunities? And just, you expand a little bit on how then that personal experience shaped your mission. And we will have an opportunity to also talk a little bit about your amazing initiative sciences. You've mentioned it a bit as well when you were sharing your story. But I want to find out the accessibility of STEM opportunities for yourself.
Thank you, Hoitzi. Definitely. I was very fortunate to have access to some STEM education growing up. But looking back, I can clearly see gaps in encouragement and representation. I rarely saw women, especially those who look like the women in my life, whether it was from my family, my neighbors, my friends, women from my community, reflected in science textbooks, labs, or leadership roles. But with that being said, I'm deeply grateful to the incredible teachers and mentors that I had from childhood through high school and even into university, who went above and beyond to connect me with opportunities. Many of them, especially the women in those roles, didn't just share what existed. They created new spaces for me to learn, grow, and explore STEM in ways that felt meaningful and exciting. And so it's those experiences that planted the seed for my mission today, not only to expand access to STEM, but make it truly inclusive and empowering, grounded in mentorship and community. I want girls to know that STEM isn't just a field they can enter, it's a space that belongs to them, is shaped by them, and can be reimagined because of them.
You have summed it up in such a beautiful way. And as you were speaking, I was like, I hope our listeners and other change makers out there can see this as a call to action. And I hope it resonates that above and beyond going into STEM fields, we can be very much innovators and within the field to expand it to include different ways that we are creative and just take ownership of it as well, the space, the STEM space. So you already led me to my next question, which is very amazing and makes me very excited. I want to find out about the role of mentorship and representation. And you've mentioned it that it's so important for us to have representation within STEM, that it's not just enough to say we have women in STEM, but to see that diversity of Indigenous women, women of color, or all ethnic groups represented within STEM. And all ages as well, different generations, being able to have those intergenerational dialogues within STEM among women and girls. So I want to find out that role of mentorship and representation. Why is it so important to have it in empowering girls in STEM?
Absolutely, Hoitzi. I think mentorship is really one of the most powerful tools that we have. I think to put it simply, it turns I can't into I can by showing young people what's possible. And of course, representation matters, especially when women and girls see people from their communities, for example, in STEM roles, they start to believe I belong here. And that really is the belief that changes everything.
Representation in STEM matters. Mentorship in STEM matters because honestly, we cannot be having young girls experiencing the same challenges that other women in STEM experience. We should be charting new spaces where it's not only more accessible, but actually it doesn't take as long to enter the field and excel and grow into other positions of leadership within STEM as it did years ago, because we have mentors, we have sponsors within the STEM fields that are advocating for diverse opportunities for young girls and women. And I want to find out from you then, what's some of the challenges or barriers that maybe young girls face as they try to enter these STEM fields? It could be in your local context. Ada's joining us from Canada in Toronto, as she's mentioned before. So it could be in the context of your local community or even in the international level. And just from you, how can these challenges be addressed effectively?
Absolutely. I think it's a common misconception, and especially as I become a young woman myself, and chat with many of my friends and colleagues and other women in STEM. This is something that always comes up, and that one misconception that I'd really like to challenge is the idea that girls simply choose not to go into STEM as if it's just a matter of preference. And the reality is that many girls are, and young women, of course, are forced to weigh the personal costs of entering a male dominated field. STEM careers are often perceived and structured as demanding, inflexible, and competitive in ways that can make it difficult to balance with other life goals, especially in cultures and societies where young women are expected to take on caregiving roles early on. And so, rather, it's not a lack of interest, it's just a reflection of how our systems aren't built with young women and girls in mind. And if we want more girls and women in STEM, we need to really reshape the spaces they're entering and not just telling them to lean in. And so, with that being said, I really encourage everyone who's interested in STEM to not be discouraged from entering a field that you're passionate in, because no matter what you do, there's always ways that you can work in work-life balance to make sure that you feel satisfied and are working towards your goals both professionally and personally. And a work-life balance is possible in STEM, and it's encouraged. And so that's my advice on how we can sort of challenge these sort of misconceptions and stereotypes.
Definitely. You've literally summed up another question that I had in mind, because I was like, there's so many stereotypes that exist, about girls in STEM. And that is definitely one of the biggest challenges that we have, especially just the notion of how traditional roles and gender roles in societies. I come from Botswana, which is in a country in the southern region of Africa, the Southern Africa. And we
Mhm.
still have very much traditions within our culture that are deeply rooted in um, putting the woman as the caregiver in the home who takes care of all the domestic duties. And then now, as more and more women are being career driven, especially within the STEM um, space, you have these conflicting ideologies of questions that come up then, can women and young girls do it all, especially in these said to be male dominated careers. And so, what you're bringing up is such an important topic to say it's not enough to encourage young women to take STEM fields up and different careers in STEM up. It's very important also to, within those fields, reshape what is policy, reshape what is norm and culture within STEM. We can no longer be just speaking of it's male dominated. By changing the narrative within these spaces, we are creating spaces where women and girls also take ownership of STEM. And it's not enough to just say it's a male dominated um, space. What are we doing about it? It's twofold, not just to the women and the girls, but to the different stakeholders also, from governments, from different NGOs, and other organizations, even men, the very men that have traditionally occupied these roles. It's upon them to know that they have a role to play as well, to ensuring that young women and girls, women as a whole, thrive within these spaces as well.
Absolutely, Hoitzi. You put it so well. And I think just to add to your point, and I think again you encapsulated this, is really to address these issues, we need multi-layered solutions. And so again, it's not just challenging the narrative, but it's policy reform, community education, investments in girls' digital access and education, and most importantly, really listening to these girls and young women themselves because they know what they need. And so I think putting them at the forefront of these initiatives is so crucial.
Exactly. You cannot create change and leave the very same people that are supposedly supposed to benefit from that change behind. We are all about co creation, collaboration, in ensuring these different solutions come to pass. Now, to you, our amazing listeners, I just want to remind you to subscribe to the Young Changemakers podcast in any platform that you listen to it on. And make sure to leave us a comment or a review. We want to hear your view. We want to hear your questions, your thoughts on STEM and on the season of this podcast as a whole. So, as we continue now, I want to tap a little bit into the digital technology. We're in an era of AI. We're in an era where technological advances are moving very quickly. So I want to hear from you then, Ida. How has the digital technology helped your advocacy work? Are there any particular tools or platforms or even strategies that you live by that make your advocacy work just that much more effective?
Oh, I love this question, Hoichi, and I agree. It's very relevant in this day and age that we're living in. And really, digital technology has truly been a game changer for our advocacy work. It's allowed us to host virtual workshops, collaborate with partners across continents, and scale our impact in ways that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. It's helped us to stay connected even when we're physically far apart and made space for creativity and inclusivity. I swear by tools like Canva, which are free to use, which makes design accessible and allows us to communicate our message visually, no matter your skill level. And for team communication, WhatsApp and Slack have been essential, especially when working across time zones. And platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn have been key for raising awareness, sharing opportunities, and amplifying the voices of our community. That being said, we always try to balance digital advocacy with real life offline relationship building. Technology is a powerful tool, but it's the human connection behind the screen that really drives lasting change.
I hope everyone can hear it because I'm literally snapping my fingers. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I definitely appreciate and echo your last statement about how, in as much as everything, technology is so important and has provided us with amazing tools that we use in our advocacy work, they are just that. They are tools that we shouldn't let now occupy the whole amount of work that we do or can do. So yes, they help facilitate, being able to do virtual meetings, being able to get our messaging across in terms of different online campaigns. But whenever possible, the human connection, face to face, interacting with the community, interacting with nature, interacting with the soil, nothing should and cannot replace that. So it's so important to always just make sure that you go into your community where you can and engage on a very human to human level. It's powerful. It's Nothing can really replace that. That grassroots work is so important. And it might be that in that moment it's impacting 5 to 10 people, 50 people. Because one thing technology really makes possible is an amplified reach, but it doesn't mean that it is in any way more impactful than the work that you would do reaching 10, 20, 50 people within your community. So thank you so much for reminding us of that, Ida.
Thanks, Hoichi. I appreciate all your support and encouragement.
Yes. So now I want to find out a little bit about sciences. Congratulations, first and foremost, for being a grantee. So Global Change Makers has an amazing program or project rather, where we offer seed funding to young change makers that have want to implement amazing projects within their communities. And there are two ways in which these people can access these grants, mostly through the Changemakers School by completing the project management course. And upon completing it, you would have already gained such amazing skills to be able to implement and develop or scale your project to have a positive impact in your community. Or if you have been able to attend an in-person summit for in-person training by Global Changemakers and its partners, then you can also apply during different grant cycles. And that is also provided that you are 30 years and below. And you'll be able to get seed funding of up to $1,000. So that's just one of the amazing programs that are available at Global Changemakers. And I know that Sciences was one of our grantees. So tell us a little bit about the organization or the project, and what's the mission? What are you hoping to achieve, the key objectives of the organization?
Yes, of course. And we are so grateful for the grant. It has been such a great learning experience also with the support of Global Changemakers as we expand the offerings of our programming and new initiatives that we're excited to put forth. And so, with that being said, Sciences it is a youth-led organization I founded with the goal of empowering women and sharing their stories across platforms to promote justice in all fields of STEM. Our mission is rooted in amplifying voices. We want women in STEM to not just be included, but to be recognized, celebrated, and given the space to lead. Our vision is of a world where those who identify as women are rightfully acknowledged for their contributions, innovations, and impact. And what makes Sciences special is that we're not just focused on education or representation alone. We work from a values-driven foundation. We center respect, ensuring that every person's experiences and identity are treated with dignity. We lead with integrity, holding ourselves accountable to our mission and to the communities we serve. And most importantly, we're committed to learning, always challenging ourselves to grow, adapt, and respond creatively to the changing needs of women in STEM. Whether it's through storytelling, campaigns, workshops, or mentorship, Sciences exist to create a space for women to thrive and not just survive in STEM. And we really want to foster that sisterhood in STEM, that sisterhood in our community.
Beautiful work, Ida. I'm so excited to see all the amazing work that Sciences are going to do. I'm particularly drawn to the values that you speak of, that continuous eagerness to continue learning. Because as young change makers, honestly, it is very tough. It's not easy. Different moments as we lead our projects as youth will challenge us. And so having that curiosity and that willingness to keep on learning as we help the individuals that we want to help, as we aim to create a positive impact, would really, really take us far. So do you perhaps want to share a little bit more about the programs? I know you've mentioned it in terms of being able to amplify the stories of the young women. Um, Perhaps tell us a little bit about what pushed you then to make sure that the work that you do for Sciences keeps going on.
Absolutely. And so I will say, really, one of the most meaningful parts of building Sciences has been witnessing how sharing stories can deeply shift mindsets, both within individuals and across communities. We've hosted storytelling campaigns where young women spoke openly about their challenges navigating STEM spaces, everything from academic pressure to imposter syndrome to gender-based discrimination, etc. And the response was so powerful. People reached out to say, I thought I was the only one feeling this way, or this story gave me the courage to apply to a program I didn't think I belonged in. We've also run peer mentorship initiatives. And so seeing those relationships blossom where someone says, because of my mentor, I now see myself as a future engineer or a researcher or a physician is incredibly fulfilling. And so what makes Sciences impactful is that we create brave, value-driven spaces, again, grounded in that respect, integrity, and commitment to learning. And so we don't pretend to have all the answers because we don't, but we listen deeply, we reflect and adapt. And that has allowed us to build genuine community and shift that narrative around who belongs in STEM. And again, to add to your point, with the very generous grant from Global Changemakers, we are now building out a micro grant program that we're excited to launch in the coming months, where we can give back to the community that has given to us already so much. And so through these micro grants, we're hoping to empower young women and girls across the world to maybe buy a course that they're interested in exploring in a field, or gaining a certification, or assisting in buying books, or even honestly taking some time for self-care and doing something that they enjoy. So again, really emphasizing that community and that support because it goes a long way.
I genuinely do not want this conversation to end. Uh, you articulate just how important STEM education is, and you share your story with so much integrity as well. When you said we do not pretend to have all the answers, I'm like, yes, you really do this work from you speak of the work that you do and do this work with so much passion, and it comes through. we I really recognize that, and I hope our listeners are able to draw motivation from it just as much as I am. So as we now sadly come to the end of our episode, I just want to find out from you, Ida, what advice would you then give to young people who are very much, passionate about contributing to girls and women's work in STEM, or who want to start that journey as change makers in any field altogether, but are probably scared or do not know where to start? What advice would you give to them?
Oh, this is a wonderful question, Hoichi. I will say, don't be afraid. I was in your shoes and I'm still in your shoes. I think we as young people are always still trying to figure things out. And again, we don't have all the answers, but trying to figure it out and doing things scared is part of the journey. And so, my advice to all of you is start small, start local, and start now. You don't need a perfect plan, just a passion and a purpose. Reach out to local organizations, join a youth network like Global Changemakers, or simply start a conversation in your community. No matter where you look, there will be people who want to support you and the things that you care about. And the world really needs your voice. And the most powerful thing you can do is believe that your story matters, because it does.
I have nothing to say, folks. I have nothing to say. You summed it up so beautifully. There is somewhere where your work is so much needed. I particularly love when you said start in your community, start where you are, but above all, start now. Now more than ever, do we need you, your authenticity, your creativity, your energy to be tackling the sustainable development goals and ensuring that the world, our world, is a better place for our generation and generations to come. And with that, I just want to thank you so much, Ida, for making the time to have this important conversation with us. Your story is inspiring. You are an amazing individual, an amazing change maker, and I just wish you all the best in this journey as you continue to have such a beautiful and a positive impact on the lives of young girls, especially within this field of STEM. So I just want to find out, where can people connect with you on social media? Where can they follow the work that Sciences does? How can they support you? Let us know a little bit about that.
Thank you, Hoichi. Absolutely. So we are on all social platforms. So for example, on Instagram, you can find us at Sciences Official. On LinkedIn, you can also check out our website and blog at www.sciences.ca. We're actually in an exciting time where we're going through a rebrand and relaunch, also made possible by our Global Changemakers grant. So we're excited to see you all on social media in the coming weeks as we launch some new exciting things in our new look. So stay tuned. And with that being said, I also want to say thank you, Hoitzi, again for inviting me to join the conversation and to chat with all of you listeners as well. I think it's such a powerful space to share our stories and the things we care about. And so, again, going back to my word of the day, I just want to say gratitude. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Ida. And we're so excited to see that relaunch, and rebrand of Sciences. We will be there cheering you on and supporting you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the Young Changemakers podcast on this episode as we were talking everything STEM and girls' education. Now, remember to subscribe and to share this podcast with everyone in your community, in your network, your friends and your family, your colleagues. This is how we get to share the inspiring stories of changemakers such as Ida. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening. Until the next episode, that's goodbye from me. Thank you for listening to the Young Changemakers Podcast, a Global Changemakers production. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it. And if you'd like to find out about the resources and programs that Global Changemakers offers, visit www.global-changemakers.net. Until next time.